What is going on, guys? It is Adam aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. We have a ton for you tonight. I believe over 24 stories. So we have a lot to get through in a short amount of time. We're going to talk about Russia, Ukraine, Elon Musk. We're going to talk about space. We're going to talk about water. We're going to talk about Earth. We're going to talk about pretty much everything you can think of when we come back. So stick around. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. Truckers in the background, never gonna back down. Truckers in the background, never gonna back down. Truckers in the background, never gonna back down. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Tonight we have a ton to go over, so remember, you can always go over to marfooglenews.com. Not only can you sign up for our notifications, but you can also sign up for our email list. Again, that is all available for free. You can also follow along. We're going to go over a ton of information, and we make sure to make a bibliography before every single show. So if we show you an article, a tweet, a video, a picture, an archived document, we are going to make sure that we have that archived and databased over on our website. Now, when you go over to marfooglenews.com, you'll see it's very easy to navigate. You'll just look for tonight's thumbnail, 0 bars. What happens then? And then, of course, you'll see that thumbnail. Just click on it, and it will bring you right to our bibliography. Basically, it will have all of the show notes, and it will also have extra information, including web-only content. Now, after you hit all of the articles for today, you will see a big yellow bar. That yellow bar is to warn you that is web-only content. Essentially, that is the stuff that's too far to one direction, or it's too hot for TV. It's stuff that we can't cover, at least on some of the platforms. Again, if you scroll down, you'll see that. Then you'll see there's a whole other show down there. That is a lot of where we are covering a ton of very sensitive issues. That is our kind of home base. So make sure to go over there. Again, we want to make sure to get people in through YouTube and be able to talk some of the more broad information. And then, of course, that website has a lot of just open-minded subjects, anything from aliens to, of course, basically aliens to aliens. You can go A to Z, but essentially there's aliens over there by the Z too. So let's also bring in my co-host / internet brother, Dex. What is going on, and how are you doing tonight?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I am doing just fine.
Now, just a reminder to help support this channel or Dex. Again, Dex is supported by the affiliates. If you do want to go over and support us through any of these, you can go over to, say, My Patriot Supply and order some food. That is, again, marfooglenews.com/prep. You can prepare yourself for an EMP. Many different devices, from solar to home to your car, have it protected by the same company that has worked with DHS DOD. Those boxes are over there. Once you click on those are affiliate links. So essentially, not only will we get a credit for sending you over, you'll get a huge discount in most cases. So make sure to go over and check that out. And then also you can support us through PayPal. We are independent. We don't have a multi-channel network. We don't have a multi-billion-dollar company. We have you guys. And also, we don't have the multi-trillion-dollar company supporting us either. Again, we don't make trending. We don't make all that stuff. We get the views, the amount of chat, the amount of people, 5,000 plus. That is all through word of mouth. That is essentially since like maybe 2 years ago when we stopped getting recommended on a big scale. So thank you, everybody, for spreading this out. If you want this to go bigger, then please help us. You are a part of this. All right, I'm going to go right into the news, and we're going to go through it as fast as humanly possible because we have so much tonight. NASA fumes at Elon Musk's plans to fill our skies with 30,000 Starlink satellites. We've talked about this before, of course. We've already talked about it. Just the amount that is in the sky right now. Astronomers and photographers have a huge problem with it because when you do a long exposure photo, just right now with the few thousand that are up there, you'll see lines going across the sky in most cases. Those are the satellites that are going through, and astronomers and these photographers are actually getting kind of pissed off because they're getting these white lines, which is essentially the satellite passing through. They are talking, and by they I mean Elon and SpaceX, they're talking about putting a grid all the way around the planet. And again, that's about 30,000 Starlink satellites. It says irritated scientists at NASA have said that they're, quote, worried that Elon Musk may be launching too many satellites. The billionaire owner of car maker Tesla and space exploration company SpaceX plans to deploy about 30,000 satellites for his Starlink satellite project, which would give broadband internet access to most people on Earth. The firm had previously received authorization for about 12,000 satellites to go up into space, but now NASA boffins are worried that the orbiting structures could get in the way of future space missions. Which, again, there's people that are going to argue about whether they're doing any of the stuff that they say they're doing up there. Again, we like to cover what they are saying because it may play into a narrative later on. What do you think about this? What do you think about Elon's SpaceX satellites or his Starlink satellites? And do you think it is something else? Dex, go over to you.
Well, I've noticed there's been this uptrend of negativity towards Elon, and it'll be interesting to watch and see if that continues to happen. We've seen it. We've seen some stuff come out in the past. We've seen a little that we talked about the video earlier today where they had originally labeled his rocket as one of the ones that was going to hit the moon, and then they backtracked on that and said it's not. And now we have this. So it'll be interesting to watch as that progresses. Is this just coincidental at the moment, or does people seem to be lining up against him for some reason? That's what I'm kind of curious. And then the other thing is,
I don't think it's a mistake. If who knows, it could all be set up like he could be purposely like playing a part. But he's been supporting like the everything that's going on up in Canada. He's been supporting the truckers.
Yep.
He's been doing a lot of things publicly. He's been calling out different agencies. Like he called out the why hasn't the UN put out the world rate of people that perished last year or in 2020? So, I mean, I personally think if he really is truly doing this, and if he is really saying these things and he's not playing the part of some evil plan, then they would push back on him. I mean, that would be kind of obvious. Or is the pushback purposeful so we think that he's getting pushback?
Right. Good. Those are great questions to ask. We just have to watch and see how it plays out. The only other observation I have on this, Adam, 30,000 is not a lot. You may think it's a lot. I mean, $30,000 is a lot of dollars, but I promise you there's more than 60,000 cars in my county alone. So if 60,000 cars can move around here in my county, I don't think it's 30,000 up in space is really that much.
Well, the only thing I don't know is they have these paths, or they say they have these paths, just like how airlines have kind of a highway in the sky. They are separated by 1,000 feet, and every 1,000 feet they're going in opposite directions. So at 34,000 feet, that's a highway lane. At 35,000, it's going this way, and so on. I just wonder if they have to be symmetrical, and if 30,000 are going around the planet, even though it's not that much. If they're rotating around constantly, would it block a lot of things? Would it be in the way, or would they have to do extra work to try to get anything out? I know that there's some people that don't believe that we can even leave because of certain barriers, but again, we want to cover it either way. And then we have conscious AI may already exist as expert receives backlash over terrifying warning. Back to Elon. Of course, Elon has said that he fears AI more than he does WW3, or at least more than he does nukes. And many people have basically started agreeing with him because people are starting to see how powerful AI can be. And, of course, saying that AI is already becoming conscious is a very scary thing. When you are talking about an AI system that is an artificial intelligence that starts becoming self-aware and has access to basically the same systems that us, humans with, that are only using 10% of our brains are using, and we can hack and get into stuff and screw things up. Think about what a quantum computer, or think about what a very powerful computer AI could do to our infrastructure, which is almost entirely embedded into this modern world with the Internet of Things and everything else. It's pretty scary if you ask me. It says an artificial intelligence expert has been criticized for saying that AI used for finance, research, or medicine could have already developed a consciousness. OpenAI co-founder Ilya Sutskever claimed on Twitter that it may be that today's largest neural networks are slightly conscious. Sutskever did not mention any specific developments, but was likely referring to the megascale neural networks, which is the language processing system built by OpenAI for translations, missing words, and question answering. It says the expert was also unclear what slightly conscious means for the man-made machines, because the concept of consciousness in artificial intelligence is still considered a controversial idea. People are still questioning, what does this even mean? What is a self-conscious AI? Many people have seen the TikTok videos or the slight little clips, because now everything is going to 30-second, 60-second clips, because that's the only that's the amount of attention people can pay now to any given subject. But you'll see these clips of these humanoid robots that they have. I can't remember any of the names offhand, but there's several that have done TED Talks and get up there and they'll ask them like, oh, do you think, are you going to destroy humans? And they'll say, oh, no, not yet. Ha, ha, ha. And everybody laughs and people think it's funny. But when you consider what has happened in the last couple of years, now you consider that they are actually working on Neuralink, and you are actually connecting computers into brains and having that brain tell that computer things based on what they're doing. These are very scary things as far as if we have AI, a computer that comes self-aware, it could do a whole lot of damage, because if it was, has any kind of reasoning, it would see us as flawed. It's the oldest fiction tale in the books as far as, since we've had computers, we've had science fiction about AI taking over or robots taking over, Terminator. But the thing is this is a real threat, because anybody who actually looks at human nature, especially something that didn't have emotions or didn't have this or didn't have that, would go, this is an imperfect thing. Why do they accept these things as normal? We accept a lot of things that are just absolutely horrid. So it's the same concept. It's like the Terminators. They thought humans are the dirt on the planet. And who knows? By some means, if you look at it the right way, we might be, right? Or at least how they put it now. I mean, they say we're destroying the planet. If a computer race essentially thought that we were destroying our own planet and our own habitat, and we're also destroying it for animals, they might say, well, these animals can survive if I kill this one animal. What do you think? Tell me your opinion down below. I like reading the comments, and I like seeing what everybody thinks. Again, this is a pretty insane thing to even think about. But again, and just want to remind you, I want to say it was the owner of YouTube that created Dex, do you remember who created the bots that started creating their own language? Was that the Oogles? Do you remember?
If it wasn't them, it was Microsoft, but it was one of the two, yeah.
One of them created this AI bot or whatever, and then the bots started creating their own language and talking to each other. That is incredibly scary. Think about that. Just absorb that. Ariel the Wrestling Mermaid, hey, I hope you're doing better. I hope that you and Mike have patched up, but if you didn't, I hope you're doing well and healing. And then Mike, I hope you're out there somewhere healing as well. Joy Myers, thank you for subscribing. Awakened Believer says, I can't find your solar generator. Show me where it is, please. Show notes right down below, or you can go to our website. In fact, or you can go to marfooglenews.com/energy. It's with an I. It's like energy with an I. Again, that's marfooglenews.com/energy. And that's where you can find the Energy Flex 1500 and all of the accessories. Thank you if you do go through us. We appreciate it. That obviously gives us a commission. And again, that helps you out. It's one of the coolest generators out there. Ilea says, happy Valentine's Day, Adam, Mrs. Marf, Dex, Lexi, and the Foogle fam. Happy Valentine's Day to you, too. I hope the husband and you guys did something special tonight. And then Gary Garcia, thank you for subscribing. Bible Talk for Common People, thank you as well. God bless everyone here tonight. Jesus loves you whether you know it or not. Thank you, Bible Talk. I appreciate that. And then Tracy Haynes, thank you for subscribing. I also, a hacker group has been framing people for crimes they didn't commit. It says, for at least a decade, a shadowy hacker group has been targeting people through India, sometimes using its digital powers to plant fabricated evidence of criminal activity on their devices. That phony evidence, in turn, has often provided a pretext for the victim's arrest. A report published this week by cybersecurity firm SentinelOne reveals additional details about the group, illuminating the way in which the dirty tricks have been used to surveil and target human rights activists, human rights defenders, academics, and lawyers. Now, it says throughout India. Now, one thing I think of when I see an article like this, depends on where it's coming from. When they are, Dex, what did you call it the other day? A pre-bunk? Was that you that we were talking about a possible pre-bunk? Maybe that was...
No, I didn't. I haven't used that term.
Maybe that was my buddy Nick. He was talking about how we were talking about the double Fantastic Freddy that might be going on with the USA, Russia, and Ukraine. How USA and the UK pre-out came out with this information somehow that they said that Russia was planning to frame it like Ukraine attacked them first, so then they could just stroll right in because they're legally or legitly doing it and nobody else could, step in. Again, if Ukraine ends up attacking them first, then Russia can do it and nobody else, NATO can't step in if it looks like Ukraine is doing it, is the aggressor, right? So they said that they got the information that Russia was planning to make it look like Ukraine. So say dress somebody up in Ukraine or in Russia like a Ukrainian and have them do something bad to Russia and then in turn respond. That's called an FF or a Fantastic Freddy. But was it a double Fantastic Freddy? Like the U.S. is saying that and pre-bunking it like a debunk, but pre-bunking it and putting it out there. So then when it does happen, it's actually Ukraine doing it and NATO doing it. And it looks like it is, Russia doing this Fantastic Freddy when really it's us doing it. And then they say, hey, we already put this information out there. We told you this was going to happen. Of course, Ukraine wouldn't do that. Of course, NATO wouldn't just go in there and attack. But, of course, that would be assuming that we really just want to go in and invade Russia, which I don't think so, but who knows? They're putting up, surface-to-air missiles around Moscow like they're about to be invaded. So who knows? But again, with this, it's like it's pre-bunking it. What if all of a sudden in a week from now, somebody very prominent that, is protected has something, they know that somebody comes out with this information and says that they have horrible things on their computer and they say that a group like this is actually who framed them, right? That's what I think of when I see this stuff where they essentially could set it up to where they could protect somebody. Dex?
Well, yeah, the other thing I think about, Adam, is the government, right? And whether it's our government or the country's government or any other government for that matter, that fact, they have and they've had the ability for a long time to access our systems, right? Some more easily than others. So we know that they can plant stuff, and that's no different than what's happening here with these hackers. The hackers may be using different methods because they don't necessarily have the same back doors that, say, somebody at a 3-letter agency that begins with the letter N might have. But yes, I think that, this could definitely be used, like you said, as, oh, well, this is the new cover. I can just say I was, somebody hacked me. And I also think about how governments are going to do this or have done this or may continue to do this when they need to solve their own problems.
Yeah, and who knows, that it could go way further than this. We could see something big go down very, very soon, and this could play into it. Real quick, I did want to say thank you to Deidre R. Thanks for the great reporting. Red Pilled, hey, thank you. I appreciate that. Julie W., thank you so much for supporting over on PayPal. Appreciate your guys' donations. Thank you guys for being there through thick and thin. Again, appreciate it. Teresa K. over the last week. Patty. Renee Henschel, thank you. Again, Erica F., and then Mark and Laura, Cheryl, Travis S., and then over the last month, I believe I missed somebody, Terry D., Kenny Cams, Able Bodied, thank you, and it's nice to see you. May, Carrie, Valerie, Kimberly M., Glenn D., and then, of course, Deborah E. Thank you guys, whether it's $1 or $5 or $20, thank you guys for the support over there. We do appreciate it. Thank you for supporting independent. And then, just to go over, it says Trudeau invokes Emergency Act for countrywide blockades. Now, could you imagine, Dex, if this happened here? This is the
equivalent of like of Marshall, right? I mean, that's sort of what I think of when I look at what powers, he has now and what he can do.
I mean, is this as bad as it looks? I mean, blockades, is that like checkpoints, or is this, what is this?
I don't know. Last I looked, I saw kids jumping in bounce houses, people dancing in the street to music, and other people cooking out food and feeding other people. It seems like an act like this would be used in times of dire, severe emergencies. I don't know if they consider this to be one, and I'm not up there. But it does seem like a very strong amount of power to be taken by a government.
Yeah, it basically they are putting the kind of the ultimate end all be all. They can essentially do almost anything by invoking this. That's at least what they're saying. So who would have thought that this would have first happened in Canada of all places? Yeah, a lot of people are very proud of what they are doing up there, and it's pretty surprising to say that Canada was the ones that were the ones that actually did this first. Unbelievable things are happening up there. Just horrible things like raves, parties, barbecues, people climbing on the top of hoods. It's sheer pandemonium. I don't know how I could support happiness. And Trudeau consulted with provincial premiers Monday morning after assembling his cabinet for a rare Sunday night meeting. Drivers upset over a federal order that required proof of return to Canada at land borders, and other civilians set up a blockade of Ottawa at the end of January. Thousands would descend on the capital, blocking streets, blaring their horns, and, according to this, disrupting civilian mobility. I have heard mixed messages on that when people actually live there, they let them through. But I would assume that if you have a 40, 50-foot truck and you are parked there and there's a bunch of other trucks, it's kind of hard to just move out of the way. But I don't know. I haven't been up there. I haven't personally been there, so I don't know. Is this like in a downtown, is this in an area where a bunch of people are trying to drive past? Or, obviously the bridge is and everywhere else. How is the geography of this? If you're from there and you know more about this, email me about the kind of scenario that is there and how the locals actually look at this. I would love to hear from somebody who lives there. And even if you supported the cause, are they inconveniencing you? I know that there were people that first supported the whole Chaz thing here when they took over 2 city blocks. Within probably 24 hours, almost everyone hated it because they blocked off, 5 city blocks or something, and they just called it like, hey, this is our own country, right? Insane that happened here again. I walked through that, I covered that, and it's like people were immediately pissed off. Even the people that just had signs in their window, they flipped them over. I saw the same house 2 days in a row. One was, supporting the 3-letter agency that was all about. Flipped it over and said, "Get the F out." It was kind of funny to me, just because it was like yesterday you were a supporter, now you are saying get off my front lawn. Either way, Lola Cafe, thank you for your support. And Woman of Wonder, happy Valentine's Day, Adam, Dex, and Foogle fan. Thank you. What do you think? How long do you think that this will last? As you know, they took the gas away from them. Some say that they gave it back with water after a judge kind of put in a court order for them to that they couldn't take their fuel like that, so they had to give it back. Some said that a huge percentage of this, and I don't know if this is confirmed, had water in it. So again, that is an unconfirmed thing that people were saying, at least on social media. So you can't necessarily, got to take it with a grain of salt. Dex, as far as this situation, do you want to add anything?
Well, I think that I understand that Trudeau is going after banking and crypto, trying to cut off the money and saying that he's in charge of it now and he's going to take it over, which I think is awfully audacious for a leader of a country to say he's going to all of a sudden take over your banking and control what you can and can't do. And that's kind of, just goes back to what are in these powers that he's invoking and what he can do. Everything from, arresting someone and holding them without any evidence or any cause or anything. So there's a lot that may come from these new powers that he is evoking. They haven't been invoked in a long time.
Well, it says it's the first time the Emergencies Act has been invoked, but it was changed. It replaced the War Measures Act, which
from his dad.
Yep. And isn't that funny that I did not know until just recently, like a month ago, that his dad, that this was a family ordeal here. But in invoking the Emergencies Act gives the federal government up there short-lived powers to limit civilian travel, use or dispose of property, manage the provision of essential services such as policing, to fine or imprison people, according to a memo on the federal website. It does not mean that the Prime Minister will deploy the military to shut down an extreme response that he has described as, quote, a last resort.
But he can.
Yes, exactly. But one thing, though, so he can deploy the military, he can deploy whatever else. One interesting theory that I have seen on Twitter and in my DMs is some questioned, especially the stuff that we've talked about over the last couple of years. What if they knew something like an asteroid was going to hit Canada, and they were actually, most of this was to enact this, and then they can get ready for this big event, or say something was coming closer and was going to hit. It's a very way off the wall kind of theory there, but I thought it was interesting. It just made me think of what if we really did have something like that happen, right? Go ahead.
Well, and Adam, let me ask you this. What about the fact that now that that's happened in Canada, we're seeing what they were standing up for being taken, being turned off, so to speak, here in the States. We're seeing it in schools. We're seeing it in states. I think it's on web only about DC, right? Lots of places are all of a sudden flipping back or announcing that they're going to flip back this stuff. So if that's really happening, and that's what this is about up there, why hasn't the country up there decided to just say, okay, we're going to flip back and everybody go home and be happy? Why are they making such a hard stand? Which kind of goes back to your question of why are they doing this?
And one of our Foogle fan members says, because I said something in my video earlier, and I guess it was, it's a live. I guess what I said could have been taken wrong. What I was suggesting is that I believe that there's a good chance that we are moving into this new thing to cover for the last thing. as far as what is going on with Russia, Ukraine, and the world, now that the world has deployed, every country from Norway to Sweden to everybody is involved in this Russia-Ukraine situation and the China-Taiwan and the I and is situation, right? And what I was saying is if the last 2 years, depending if it's the biggest scandal on earth or the biggest deal on earth or whatever it may be, all of a sudden that's just phased out like overnight. People just forget what happened over the last 2 years because they said, oh, well, it just trailed off, right? It got weaker and now it's disappearing. So everybody's taking off the things. They're removing all of these things. In November, OSHA and all this stuff happened where they said that, they can't push the companies to, force this, right? But somebody from Foogle Fam said, well, I'm, losing my job in March, and that's really horrible. I actually asked, I didn't check back to see if they answered, but it's, I wonder if they live in another country or if they do live here. Dex, do you know, since that's a thing, can the companies still choose to do it? And don't they have legal recourse if it's not a federal force thing anymore? Or if they have to quit their job or if they're being forced out of their job because they're not doing something, right? Is that something?
Yeah, I guess it depends on the state laws on how that works and or if they have a contract and what their contract says. Most states, it's just a right, not a right to work, or it's a right, they could fire you for any reason. So in that case, the company can do what they want and decide, if they want you to wear blue shirts every day and you don't choose not to, or have no beard, or get a certain thing, right? And if you don't do it, then you can't work there. So, yeah,
we're at will state. Is that what they call it?
I think that's one of the terms.
We're like fired at will or something like that.
Yeah, right. It's not a right to work, or it's not a contract. Like in California, a lot of times you get contracts, so you get a contract for work.
I'm thinking this person is from
in other
Washington.
states, like in Georgia, like here in Georgia, you can fire anybody at will. It doesn't matter.
That maybe this person is from. I'm like it's trying to. I'm thinking of. I talk to so many people, but this one I've talked to. At least, several times. And I'm almost thinking that that's here, because here you can fire somebody for any reason. You just don't like them. But I don't know what the official rules are. There's got to be some limits to that, because unless it's discrimination or something. But that would seem like, after they push this, can you have a legal case for discrimination because you don't do something that should be private in the first place? They shouldn't even have to tell strangers, let alone have your first grader be the only one that raises their hand and said that they didn't do it. Okay, I guess I got a little personal there. But I will say this, again, I want to feel you guys out. If your son or daughter was in first grade and their teachers asked if they did it or if they didn't and had everybody raise their hands, and your kid was the only one that raised their hands to say that they didn't, what do you think about that? I mean, doesn't that single out the child? Doesn't that, first of all, it's a medical question in first grade. Apparently, they did this school-wide. What do you think about that, and would that piss you off? Dex?
Yeah, no, that I totally agree. That would upset me as a parent, and I would think that would be inappropriate for a school teacher to do. Hey, I do want to circle back real quick back to Canada and leave it with this thought. What if that is an orchestration, and while what looks like organic, maybe it was created and allowed to be created by some for the purpose of a honeypot? And when I say a honeypot, I refer back to, if you look at what happened here in the States at the event in January, which now has labeled a lot of people, and now by affiliation, other people that look like those people are now all sort of affiliated into this label, so to speak, right? Which we've seen DHS put out warnings of. Is this an opportunity that the government up there is using deliberately to then create that label, so that they can then have a large number of people that they can label as such and then have a position like they are trying to have here in America?
Well, and this is going to start here. This is something that may very well become an entire huge thing here too. And just think about the warnings they have put. They said that there was a credible and specific threat on our power grid. So whether it is from Russia, China, or from inside our own CIA or NSA, that's why we have told you, be prepared for anything. Because, and this sounds crazy, but when you look at what's actually happened, look at how they're labeling people just because of their beliefs. And not even beliefs. These aren't spiritual. This is like, there were two parties, and if you're one of them, you are effed. You are literally effed. I just can't believe it. Like, I understand that you can disagree with somebody, but the sheer hate that is happening right now is just disgusting, both ways. John Bergman, thank you for subscribing. SWeb54, Judy Rose, thank you for subscribing. All right, and then before we move on, we're going to go talk about John Ratcliffe and on America's Newsroom, one of the possibly the biggest scandal ever. I do want to remind you, if you want to protect yourself against an EMP, remember we have EMP Shield as an affiliate. This is one of the most reliable ways to actually protect yourself against an EMP or a solar flare or a CME. Carrington level event, if it happens again, or I'm sorry, when it happens again, it happens on average every 150 years. It's been 160, technically overdue. It could disrupt our entire power grid. Whether it is a natural, man-made thing that happens, either way, if we lose our grid, we could be in serious trouble. If you protect your car, you can get home. If you protect your home, all of your devices within the range of this will be protected. And yes, the power grid might not turn back on, but if you have a generator or a protected solar generator, then you can turn back on and have all of your stuff running. So again, go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP. And again, if you are like, what was that, Glon or Glenn, you can get an energy-equipped EMP shield. Energy solar generator equipped with EMP. So go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP. Again, if you want to check out the solar generator with this equipped, that would be on the energy side. We'll talk about that later. Again, that's marfooglenews.com/EMP. You will get $50 off per device. So if you want to do 2 cars, your generator, your solar generator, your RV, your motorcycle, whatever it may be, you can get deals on multiples. And then, of course, this compacts on top of any sale that they are running. We are grandfathered in. We were there before. They're huge contracts with the likes of agencies like DHS, DOD. Of course, now they are on the DEMSO team helping the Texas grid. So again, make sure to go over there. It helps support us. We are independent. We get views that are more than daytime television, and it's just 2 dudes and our mods. Our mods do an amazing job of keeping everybody positive, and they do a lot of work down there to make the community. Again, we are putting the show together, 2 dudes, and the help with your help, of course. So again, thank you everybody that supports. Thank you everybody, again, that has and will. All right, and then Dex, do you want to talk about Ratcliffe on America's Newsroom? Durham probe unraveling a deep criminal.
Yeah, this is like the big story that's not being talked about. And this is also not a story that we normally would cover. And I think what's really something that I think it's important for us to bring up is while the story itself and the facts and the evidence that are in it are pretty egregious, and as it continues to evolve and comes out, it could be probably one of the most significant stories in politics in a long time, since even Watergate, so to speak. But the thing we need to think about is, if this is not being talked about, what does that mean, and why is it not? When I think about the typical MSM, and also if this is something that would normally be talked about, is there something else that's being done right now that is a large distraction to prevent us from seeing this or from paying attention to this, and to try and sweep this under the rug? So instead of getting into all of the politics of it, which I'll sort of leave that out, it's just from time to time we find things that are very significant, but they're also not, in the sense that they're on the back page or not even on the page, so to speak.
And I mean, when the wording here kind of reminds me of a group that was putting out information over a couple of years, and almost every one of them was knocked off the internet. What was it? Can anybody put it in the chat? The Voltaire quote of basically who you can't talk about. Those are the ones you got to look out for, is the ones you can't talk about. And that somebody put that in chat, and first one that does gets an amazing amount of luck today. And then tripwire for real war, cyber fuzzy rules of engagement. President JB couldn't have been more blunt about the risks of cyber attacks spinning out of control. This is a quote. It says, if we end up in a war, a real shooting war with a major power, it's going to be a consequence of a cyber breach of great consequence. Is this out in the open, stone cold, just accidental, just boop, right out there in the open? And who knows, because, again, look who said it. Did he just blurt that out bluntly? Was he supposed to blurt this out? Was he supposed to say this? If you read this again, and I'm going to read this, so listen very carefully. Think about all of the warnings that we've had. Think about all of the official documents saying that this is a huge risk. It says, if we end up in a war, a real shooting war with a major power, it's going to be as a consequence of a cyber breach of great consequence. Why would he say that? I know that people are like, well, because he's tiptoeing around Nutso, okay? But at the same time, why specifically that? So what about getting attacked? What if somebody does another 2001 September? It's going to be as a consequence of a cyber breach of great consequence. At the same time that CISA is telling us, and this is the same day, I believe, whether or within 24 hours of CISA telling us that Russia is planning cyber attacks or flexing their, cyber muscles, right? And a week and a half after telling us that our grid is in danger because of a specific and credible threat. Dex?
Yeah, Adam. So the thing that comes to my mind is as this plays out, and if things go the way I think they're prescribing them to go, if Russia rolls into Ukraine and we just stand with NATO to protect the NATO countries and make sure they don't go any further, then all of a sudden some cyber event happens in our country, then that's going to be the excuse for us to actually then do something back to Russia, sort of like the marching out of the pictures of WM letter D, right, and saying that these things exist and that's why we have to go in, right? This was going to be used potentially as a starting point for something, and it's also one of those things that's really hard to prove. In other words, you can have experts say, "Oh, for sure it was the Russians that did it," but you have a really hard time. Like, you can't just show tangible proof. You can't say, look, here's a building that has been destroyed, or a ship that's been sunk, right? This is an unsight, something you can't really see outside of the consequences of it, that maybe the power's out or the telecommunications are down or something like that, right?
Well, and just like you said, it's like, think about what they did with WNDs. They showed some kind of shady pictures, satellites, like, oh, we think they're here. We've got all this information. There was never WMDs, right? There was never, they never had any proof of it. But yet we put our whole country into a conflict for 20 years over this whole thing, right? So think about that, and then think about how they have never really said concretely 100% like this was Russia's government. They've said it's a group that we think is tied to this. If you remember when the infrastructure was hit, when the East Coast had the pipeline thing happen, of course they said, oh, it's tied to this group. Think about how big this could very well be. And he was set the stage saying, if we get into a full-blown conflict, or if we get in a shoot war with a major power, it's going to be because of this. Again, it's going to be as a consequence. And what's so funny, I didn't even notice at the first day. It's going to be as a consequence of a cyber breach of great consequence. He said consequence twice. God, what a jack. But either way, it's like he was telling us if we do get in a shooting thing, it's going to be because somebody hacks our cyber stuff. And then if we say, oh, well, Russia hacked us, or our power grid goes down, oh, guess who did it? That's freaky to me. And then think about think about Venezuela. Think about all these countries that have all these weird ties with all the world governments that have had their governments replaced. They've had they've had the things, we found out that they I can't even say that word. They found out that they fixed certain parts of their government to where a certain person was leading. And at around that same time, either that or they were taken out, or at the same time, they had full-blown countrywide blackouts. Dex, do you think about that? I mean, how many countries had these? Central Asia just had one. You had Kyrgyzstan, all these different places that just had a huge power. Are these practice runs? Mexico had over 10 million just power out, all sorts of pandemonium going on. Have you thought about all that?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that kind of stuff, like major blackouts happen for smaller things that are like, when I say smaller, like a coup in Venezuela, right? That's not, huge militaries rolling in. That's like covert stuff going on, and then there's still blackouts. So imagine what happens when there's larger, conflict. That power is going to go out. You're going to see events like that, whether it's on our homeland or another large country's homeland. It's going to happen. And it's tactically correct, right? And in the past, when we would, or when a country would go and invade somewhere or try to take over a region, it was always the first thing you do: knock out the power, knock out the comms, knock out the satellite systems, or anything that can, or radar systems, anything that can pick up and help, you kind of eliminate. You can make it all as dark as possible, right? So now it's a lot easier. You can do that with a keyboard. You don't have to do that with flights and munitions and other things. So we definitely are going to see this used as any type of conflict rolls out, small or large.
And I want to remind people about some stuff that has happened over the last couple of years. Here, and then a couple of people made comments. They're like, this is all that mainstream is talking about now. I just want to remind you, we led you up to here. Almost all of, and most of the Foogle fam totally knows, but I am speaking to the new people. You can ask the people that have watched every show every night. We were always ahead of the mainstream. Here's the thing. We're talking about this. We saw the little tiny back page stuff, and we said, this is what's happening next. And we not to pat ourselves on the back, but because it's patting all of you on the backs, right? All of you played a part in this. Every person in this audience that sends us messages, that sends us, stories right off the bat, to the mods, sending us stuff real quickly. We were way ahead of this. If you notice, if you watch the show, we are talking about things a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 4 months before the entire world is consumed by it. We knew Russia and Ukraine obviously we knew it was going to be huge. And now it's all that people are talking about other than what is going on in Canada. It's Canada, or it is Russia and Ukraine. And again, just a week ago, nobody even knew what was going on. But we knew that this was at least going to be used, and it was going to be put up on a pedestal. We knew this. We saw these things lining up. I just want to remind you, what kind of battle are they planning for? The thing that bothers me is people are really thinking that this will never happen. Every country is planning for a no power, no GPS, no whatever conflict. That's why we partnered with who we did. Remember, now 2 years back, military to jam GPS signals across East Coast through January 24th. FBI is asserting eminent domain to seize night vision devices from distributors. There were people that were there were military what do you call it, the surplus stores trying to get night vision, but they couldn't for hunters and everything else. But they couldn't because FBI had seized all of the night vision tubes. They are massively preparing. If you forget, if you're new to this, DHS grabbed 1.6 billion rounds of ammunition. To put that into perspective, all 20 years of this last conflict, that didn't even use that much ammunition. You could run a hot conflict for 20 years with that much ammunition. Why did they do it? Why did they get that much? And it's not like we're talking about the weapons. We're talking about the ammunition. Why did they need that? I mean, Dex, and then why are they practicing landing these cargo jets and A-10 Warthogs on U.S. highways? Why are they talking about putting surface-to-air missiles around all infrastructure? This is stuff that's happening on the Congress level, the congressional level. Why are they why are we putting the Iron Dome system in Guam now to protect us? You always hear about that in the Middle East, protecting other countries. Now it's here in Guam. It's right there in Guam protecting us. Why do you think all of this is happening? You think it's all going to lead up to this and then it's just going to come back down? Even if it's manufactured and they're high-fiving, it doesn't matter. It's like you assume they care about the millions of people that will be lost. Oh, well, why would they do that? They just built millions of dollars and they invested all this money into building, this new system of the 5th generation of that and everything else. So I bet you most of these things are insured, and the insurance companies are probably getting it some other end. Think about what they just did. They just funded all of this stuff through what happened in the last 2 years. We just put ourselves in like 50 generations of debt over the last 2 years. And how much of that actually went to the public? You got a couple $1,200 checks or three $1,200 checks, or you got about $5,000. I don't know. Again, we got one $1,200 check. That was it. But some people just put it on the maximum end. Say you got 10,000. That still doesn't equal at all what they gave out. They gave out this little tiny chunk to the people. Where did the rest go? We're talking about trillions. So I just don't see how people aren't seeing that. Like, they don't care about human life. And what's so funny is people have been following independent news like us rather than the big guys. Have you noticed how Fox, CNN, all this, they are now, like, especially Fox is trying to imitate the little guy. They keep talking about elites and this and that. They use words that were in alternative. Why? Because they're trying to get their viewers back from us. So just remember that, like, people are choosing to be here because of something. Anyone who's followed us for a long time knows this is a very obvious pattern. It can go like this and it can go back down. But it's not always going to go back down. It feels like me, and this is my opinion. This is go time, people. And that's just my opinion. Dex, I mean, do you feel we're close?
Yeah, every month I feel like we're close, and then the next month I'm like, I can't believe how closer we are, and nothing has happened, right? Or nothing. It hasn't actually gotten to the point of hot conflict, so to speak. But yeah, it's there. It's there in many different aspects, whether it's potential conflict or not in Europe, whether it's potential conflict or not in Taiwan, whether it's the DHS warnings that they give about, certain types of people, or whether it's, what's happening up in Canada. Like, all of these little things, or all of these potentially big things, are all boiling points in and of themselves. And when you put them all together, it's kind of crazy. It's an interesting time we're in right now.
Very much so. And then, yeah, they've set up plenty of things that are just like, it's right there. Spirit Airlines issues temporary ground stop due to IT issues impacting website. And it says that they have implemented a temporary ground stop due to technical difficulties impacting its website and other systems. The airline posted on book Monday afternoon. It says, quote, "We implemented a temporary ground stop for upcoming flights because safety is our top priority." The airline said, in part, "We're working with a partner to restore connectivity as soon as possible." Isn't it crazy how much our society is actually dependent on the internet? And it says, "We apologize for the inconvenience this has caused our guests and will provide updates as we work towards resolving this issue." Dex?
We've seen these time and time again. They rarely come out and actually say it was a cyber event. They always just say, oh, it was some technical IT issue. Don't look here, move on, right? And not to diss my friends in the IT world, but there certainly are IT issues that pop up from time to time. But there certainly are a lot of cyber activities that go on that go unreported in the public, but probably are looked at very closely behind closed doors.
And this is out in the public. They're saying, again, that an actual ground stop, they're not flying because their internet is messed up, right? Obviously, something could have happened here. We've had many airlines being messed with. Is this practice for something greater? Now, remember what they are saying, CISA, the cyber intelligence something. Dex, can you quote? Is it cyber infrastructure? Figure out what that.
Yeah, it is. It's Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency.
So they're saying that they're expecting these things to happen, and now looks like they may be happening. They actually declare it was IT issues that were behind these ground stops, right? Remember, we've had several weird things happen that they just explain away, and people will just gobble it up. NK supposedly launched a missile, and then we had a whole West Coast ground stoppage. And this is all in the same time frame. You had 40 satellites fall out of the sky. 40 out of 49 fell out of the sky, and they said it was because of a solar event, even though solar experts are saying, like, that shouldn't have knocked them back down. The solar event was not that strong. This could have been something as far as... and people are forgetting. China actually threatened and said some harsh words to Elon right before this. I mean, like, Dex, did you put that together?
Yeah, they were mad about the last round of Starlinks because they said that they came too close to their space station, right? And they put up a big kerfuffle over that. Then the U.S. responded with, "Nah, it's not really that big of a deal." And then they got even madder. So, and yeah, that's all about the time that came out, was right about the time the additional 40 that went up again, or 40 plus went up again. 40 of them came down, right?
Yeah. Right after they said you're launching too many, you came too close, then 40 out of 49 got sent back down. Did that just was it an act of war? Like, do we even know yet? Like,
yeah, and it all goes back to also looking at, if you start to put the pieces together and look at the Elon stories for like the last 4 weeks, it's just been a concerted effort of content coming out in negative form against him, right? So whether it's the satellites, whether it's the satellites getting too close to China, whether there's too many of them, whether there's bad things about him as a person, whether there's bad things about his finances, it was just like all of this stuff at one time. And we know how coordinated media can be.
And just to remind you, China has one of the largest forces, not of soldiers, but digital soldiers. They have the largest man force, too, as far as the military goes. But we're talking about digital soldiers. They have 1 million plus digital just people that are on the payroll that can go in and shape the internet's opinion of something. Not only that, they own Hollywood. If you didn't realize it, China actually owns huge chunks of Hollywood, to the point where John Cena was a perfect example of this. He essentially said that Taiwan was its own place, right? I don't even remember what his original tweet was, but what he was saying was that Taiwan was a country. I think he even just said Taiwan was a country. Then he groveled and learned Chinese and said, Joe, I am so sorry I offended the Chinese people. And people are like, what is he doing? This wasn't because he was being woke and he was being culturally sensitive. No, it was because he was about to be blackballed from all of Hollywood if he didn't say sorry to the actual president of China. He said sorry to the people, sorry to the government, sorry to everybody, because guess what? It's all tightly, at that point he was in Fast and Furious. He was also in Suicide Squad. He's in all these Hollywood movies. If they don't play a movie in China, that's 1.4 billion people. It's one of the largest markets. It can lose millions and millions of dollars for every actor. And they can just blackball you from ever showing any of your movies. If it contains this person, we won't have it in our country. Or they can threaten to do the whole thing. So what did they do? They called John Cena and they said, hey, I think I'm turning Japanese only Chinese style. You need to learn Chinese right now and you need to grovel. We need you to get on your knees and you say sorry like the little peacemaker you are. See the reference there? That was Peacemaker. You got it. Again, but that's the thing is we don't know what to believe, and that's why we're talking about it. That's why we need to have all of this being talked about. Global Witness, I hope you're still here. I saw that you supported a while back. Again, Global Witness, thank you. If you guys have not checked out Global Witness is just a powerhouse of a guy. He really is the same guy on and off camera, which is very rare. I've met a lot of people and they're completely different once the camera turns off. He is the same off the camera, and that if you see him on camera, he's constantly praising people, pushing people up. It's very similar to our channel. Again, I hope that you go check him out. Even if we're both live at the same time, make sure to go over and stop and say hi, okay? Global Witness is a great guy. Same with Jacob Israel. If you haven't checked out Jacob Israel, lots of great people. Make sure to go check them out. And then Kappa Chow. Hey, Marfy Marf, Dex the man, awesome mods. It's been a while. Just been watching you guys daily. Stay low profile. Oh, always Tangalicious. Thank you. And then Big Casino. Thank you for subscribing. Matt Duck. Thank you for subscribing. Everybody that just came into the channel, thank you. 6,500 over on YouTube. Looks like we have at least another 500 on DLive. So almost nearly 7,000. Thank you. Gone Girl 777. Thank you for the diamond. Says Bibles tomorrow's newspaper. Amen. And then T-Man Red Pill. Thank you so much. Gone Girl 777. It's nice to see you here. I hope that you are doing well through a lot of this. I mean, it is getting crazy, but again, we got to stay faithful and just stay strong and take deep breaths. Lisa K23, March 26 is my last day at work. Lisa, I didn't want to put you on blast, but again, I'd love to talk to you about what happened. Please email me. And then Dex, what's going on?
Yeah, I want to make sure I don't know if you saw it or not, but Gone Girl also had a jet that came through. And if you need it, I can read it.
No, I was just scrolling up, so I was going to make sure I didn't miss anybody.
Okay, good.
Wow. So Gone Girl, hey, thank you so much. Again, doing a Ninjet over on DLive is the highest compliment you can bestow on someone. Thank you so much. Again, Gone Girl, you didn't have to do that, and we really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. Especially, again, the DLive family. There are very loyal people over there. If you guys haven't watched it over there, the one cool thing is it never stops. And it's a lot. I think it's a lot more relaxed over there. Hello, Adam, Dex, mods, wives, and Foogle fam. I love you all, family. I'm sorry I've not been around much. I've lost some people and my dog recently. I love you, fam. Well, I know how that is, and again, anybody here can relate. We're still reeling off of many losses. Florida Patriots 71. We lost. Actually, was that this year? I think that was earlier this year in January. If not, that was December. So we lost a lot of people, and then Alicia lost her sister. I have personally lost somebody in my life. But yeah, a dog or any pet that is family is really, really hard. Thank you so much for everything. Thank you, Gone Girl, for being here. And again, don't worry about it. Take care of yourself first. And then really, really, Wendell, Mary XX, and Unwashed Sky. Thank you so much for the ice creams over there. Jammer1, Chance, thanks for modding. Gem, if you're around. And then, of course, everyone that's over there, thank you. Trojan, thank you for following. Okay, let's get into, so several odd things have been happening as far as cell phone outages. Dex, you actually personally experienced this, and others did too. And seems to me, and it sounds like it was bigger than Georgia, but this is what they're reporting.
Yeah, right. So again, just like we talked about with Spirit, here now we have a telecommunications company in the South. Well, they're nationwide, but in the southern location, mostly Georgia, had a huge outage today. And they're, we're not sure exactly what it is. I think some have reported it was a fiber issue or an IT issue, as they like to say. But this was a big outage where a lot of people could not use their phones. They were just out of, no service unless they were on a Wi-Fi. They couldn't. It was useless. So, matter of fact, when we were live over on Marfoogle News, I saw a lot of people telling me that they didn't have cell service, and I'm like, well, I have cell service. What's wrong? And then we started looking into it and realized it was just Verizon that was being hit, which then made me think, well, we'll probably never know the real reason, but again, if we start to see more of these outages, whether it's a local power agents service, a gas pipeline, an airline, a telecommunications company, et cetera, and we start to see more of these things, the closer we get to conflict or in conflict, we definitely will be seeing these things happen, right? Maybe even on a larger scale.
Yeah, and when you look at it, this was a chunk. This was an entire state, big swaths of people that could not use their cell phone. They could not call emergency services. They couldn't get out, period. Okay, this is big. What if this was stopped? Somebody turned off the pipeline. Maybe this was meant to be bigger. Maybe this was meant to be nationwide, but somebody caught it. Or they got in there and they put their fences up before they could. They turned on the firewall, whatever the heck they do. Again, this is now. This is current, by the way. This isn't as bad as it was. When Dex first, when we were, I believe, live the first time on news, that at that time, a lot of people in chat were saying, hey, I can't use my cell phone at all. I have to use my computer. People outside the state and all around, people said that in the Midwest, they were totally out for 10 hours. So I saw many, many different quotes saying that people were down. I'm just curious, and everybody goes straight to downdetector.com. Would the U.S. government ever go over to Down Detector and say, hey, you cannot say how bad something truly is? I just wonder if it, like this, not using this one, but if it got really bad, like really bad, would they go over there and tell them, hey, please, maybe turn it yellow, but don't turn it red? I don't know. I've wondered that with Down Detector for a while, because everybody, that's the go-to when you're checking outages. People go over here, or would they just turn that off too? And then what else would you go to, right?
And Adam, that map you're showing, when I sent it to you earlier, all of that orange in there was bright red. That's how bad it was. It was significantly different than what you're seeing, but it's the same amount of coverage. The entire state into Alabama, North Florida, and South Carolina, all red.
Did you end up, I thought you grabbed a screenshot. Didn't you send me one earlier?
Yeah, I can find it.
If we could add that to the website, that would be good. Then people can get a true
we'll do it there.
Reference
we'll put it
there. All right, and then again, if you wanted to know about the energy solar generator, this entire show right now is running. It is less than 2 feet away from me. It is completely silent. That is one of the biggest strengths. I will do a video in the future going over the pros and cons, especially if you are in an urban area. You do not want an engine running and having people hear that you have a generator. Generators are, one, expensive, and two, normally they're loud. So if somebody hears you have a generator and they're desperate, they don't have power for 7-8 days straight, guess what they're going to do? They're going to walk around the neighborhood, and the first engine they hear, they're going to walk towards it. Now, remember, Energy, I-N-E-R-G-Y, is one of the most sought-after solar generator, modular generators out there. In fact, last year, it had a huge waiting list. Now they've got that waiting list down to a minimum, as far as now you can order it and get it within a reasonable amount of time. The thing is this is one of the most coveted thing with all of the different things that are going on, including all the shortages. This is one of the most coveted solar generators out there. It is modular. So that means you can get the base Flex 1500, you can get one panel, or you can get the base 1500 and do a second battery and stack it right on top, a third battery, a fourth battery, a fifth battery. Also, you can end up getting accessories for this. They even have different brackets that can go in between like a sandwich and then accept more power input so you can charge it faster. You can plug in 4 solar panels. Again, you can work it a million different ways, but you can also get some of their proprietary low voltage appliances like, low voltage stoves, all sorts of things that you can plug right into it that will be able to run for a much longer time. But think about things like this. 1, silent. 2, no fumes. You can run it right in your house. And then 3, much less maintenance than a gas-powered engine. I would think that would make it have much more longevity. Again, but you can also be stealth mode with this. On top of that, if you have even a little bit of sun, you can set yourself up with multiple solar panels to where you get a reasonable charge with very little sunlight. Again, make sure to go over to marfooglenews.com/energy. This is one of the coolest things out there. My friend Nick, for example, he has a CPAP machine. He's a bodybuilder, so he's got this huge, thick neck. I did not know this, but like 80% of bodybuilders need need a CPAP because they have sleep apnea because their necks collapse when they go to sleep. And when we go to sleep, our neck muscles relax. Nick would basically die if he doesn't have power. So again, he didn't even think about this until he thought about a power outage, and now he's working out power situations because if he doesn't have a CPAP machine, he doesn't wake up, or he wakes up with brain damage. So there's things like that you got to think about. Make sure to go over there, marfooglenews.com/energy. It helps support the show, and it protects your state of mind. All right, and then Dex, now we're getting into the fiery stuff. Ukraine calls for a meeting with Russia as U.S. warns of imminent attack. Seems like the same old movie, right? Well, the Ukrainian president actually came out and was supposedly sarcastic and said that the invasion, would happen on Wednesday. And then they rolled that back, and so now we're sitting here, and so now all of a sudden the Ukrainian government is not saying this is the same old movie. They are now actually taking this seriously. Dex, what do you think changed?
Well, if the reports that were given, because I understand that it's not a free-for-all with media. In other words, the media is not embedded necessarily with our own troops and with their own activities that are going over there. And not all the media that would want to have access into Ukraine and other places are even given it. So it's sort of selective what we're allowed to know. But if you look at what they're telling us, and we'll talk a little bit about this as the show progresses, there's been a lot of activity that shows, based on the reports, that Russia's doing things specifically that looks like they're preparing to, come across the border. Like if they weren't planning to do that, these actions they're taking wouldn't happen. So, it seems like that there's a lot of, and I guess a lot of the folks in Ukraine, as we're being reported, are taking that much more seriously now, thinking, okay, well, this does look like it's more than just a drill. This does look like it's more than, just posturing.
Yeah, because now they're covering all of their bases. They're now positioning ships to actually place and block off waterways, important waterways. They have them completely surrounded by sea and by land, and they're moving in all of their forces. I mean, we're talking about 100% of the forces that are needed to invade. They were at 60% capacity, then they were 70%, and now some experts are saying they have enough to do it at any moment now. Then they had this weird date. That's what I thought, and most people thought the same thing. The number one comment I saw when Zelensky and this headline came out that they announced that it's going to start on Wednesday. Some people even said like on Wednesday at 8 a.m. is, I'm glad they're telegraphing their moves. Or maybe they called and they're like, hey, between lunch and brunch, I have an hour here. I can't do it on Thursday. I have a dental appointment. I guess we can do the invasion on Wednesday. Somebody tweeted, I guess war is now an appointment. It's like, why would it be exactly Wednesday? Why would they know that? Why did he come out? Some say he was sarcastic, but at the same time, we heard Tuesday, we heard Wednesday, we heard before the Olympics finished. We heard all this exact information. Is something planned? Is this all wrote down on a schedule book? Are they trying to get in between a solo recital or something? Putin's kid or something? I don't know. It seems very, very odd. Stephen McMahon, it takes Clark Kent of the English world, Canada, to flip the kryptonite bird to the tyrant. I agree. Dex, what do you think as far as why the timing and then this whole weird thing that happened?
Well, in there's two ways to look at this. One, if this was all organic and all natural, then you would say, okay, well, our intelligence community is, hopefully really robust and has the ability to intercept information, in addition to just looking at posturing and positioning, right? But intercept information and be able to say, okay, well, we have intelligence that tells us this is going to looks like it's going to happen. Or they have, sent down orders. We've intercepted them. We know that they're going to do X, Y, Z on a certain date. Or if it's not organic, if it is of the nature that we like to call, Fantastic Freddy's, and it's orchestrated in some fashion with two sides, one side, or one side playing a double agent, right? Whatever it may be, then somebody would know a date because they know what they're doing. They're planning something. So it's one of those two things. There's probably other scenarios, but those are the two things that come to my mind when I think about, like, why are their dates set? What is the specific date, et cetera?
Well, and at the same time, the CIA, it basically leaked that the CIA had all of us. They were collecting bulk data on every last person, right? Maybe they intercepted via that, and maybe they had to leak that because they had to explain why they knew it was exactly on the 16th or whatever. I don't know. Again, maybe they had people in the USA or Russian spies that they found out from, or what the plan was. I don't know. Or they were the ones planning it. Wages World, don't forget the second failed rocket 2 weeks later. 4 satellites lost. Keep rocking the truth. Wages World, you were completely correct. Wages World, I would love to hear your opinion on what you think about the whole 40 satellites coming back down. You study the solar weather. You have a bigger channel that does that. What do you think about that? I'd love to hear your opinion. Maybe call in tomorrow. Zach Van, thank you for subscribing. Chanel Belvacqua. Why we whisper health info. Have to set up HPA training, get fined for violations, yet you are asked loudly if you have the HV, been beep everywhere we go. How is this not a violation? Yes. As far as HEPA and all that, that's, yeah. Doesn't make too much sense there. Survival Living, much respect, brother. Stay strong, and you got Foogle fam behind you. We got point. I love that. We got point. That's awesome. Black Scorpion Fitness, thank you for subscribing, and welcome to the Foogle fam. I hope to check out your channel. It sounds like you're trying to do something. Bible Talk for Common People. It's like a jack-in-the-box turning the handle. He's eventually going to pop out. Pop goes the weasel because weasel goes pop. I agree. I think at one point it's not going to come back down, and it's not getting better. Russian artillery moving into attack positions along Ukrainian border. Now that is confirmed through not only American officials, but through Norwegian officials and other satellite information coming out of, I want to say, Japanese information. And then Ukraine receives anti-aircraft missiles from Lithuania. Lithuania's military aid, including Stinger anti-aircraft missiles delivered as part of the security support package for Ukraine, is unloaded from a 17 Globemaster plane at Boryspil International Airport. So another thing is we actually see these Globemasters flying back and forth. We've been tracking the flights. A lot of the Foogle fam has been tracking these flights. We've been posting some of the more interesting flights. Of course, even my wife has been tracking these flights. we are seeing tons of stuff going into Ukraine. And I'm talking Globemaster after Globemaster. These are the giant planes that you saw in Greenland with the huge opening cargo bays, and they can fit just tons and tons of stuff. They can fit tanks. They can fit whatever. They have been running into Ukraine like crazy. In fact, at any given point, I could probably go to Flight Radar right now, look at the most tracked flight. It's probably a Globemaster. I mean, you could try it for giggles. It's probably going to be a Globemaster heading to Ukraine. So it seems to me like the actions are matching what some of this is saying, right? It's not completely just up in the air. And then U.S. is closing the embassy in Kiev and moving remaining diplomats to Western Ukraine amid fears of Russian invasion. They're going to Lviv, I think. I think that's how you say it, Lviv. It's like Kiev, but L-V-I-V. And it says the United States is closing the U.S. Embassy in Kiev and temporarily relocating. By the way, they also said that they were destroying computers, shredding, burning, destroying. You do that so you don't leave a trace. Diplomatic personnel in the country of Lviv, a city in western Ukraine, due to the dramatic acceleration of the buildup of Russian forces. It says, quote, I have ordered these measures for one reason, the safety of our staff, and we strongly urge any remaining U.S. citizens in Ukraine to leave the country immediately. Now, you could say the U.S. is full of propaganda. The one thing that gets me is all of the other countries that are part of this are all saying the same thing, and the list got huge. Pretty much every country in the world has told their embassy and told their people and their citizens to get out of Ukraine. Seems to me like, this has to be a worldwide propaganda then. And it very well could be. Who knows? Again, I know that exists for a fact, or at least I have for the last 3 years. So you guys get my drift. Dex, do you have a statement?
Well, I find it interesting that they're staying in the Ukraine. They're just moving to the western border, which makes sense, I guess, because they want to sort of have contact, but they also need a quick exit into Poland, I believe, would be the ideal location based on where they're moving. So they're moving out of Kiev, which is on the, if you're not familiar with Ukraine, it's on the northeastern sort of quadrant. It's kind of closer to Moscow, if you want to say that. And where they're moving from that location is over to the western side. That's really close to Poland.
Well, and the constant flights to Poland, that is another thing. Poland has been a big part of this too. We have covered pretty much, Poland has been on the daily roster of places we have been going in and out of. Our paratroopers just went to Poland. We just had a ton of Poland-related activity, so I could see that maybe they're setting up a headquarters there for this potential thing to go on. Who knows? Maybe that's where all of these other NATO countries are setting up as well. One thing I will say is there is a Lviv, I believe there's a Lviv 24-hour camera, or at least there was the other day. I don't know if that's still up. I will try to find that and link that. But I believe if you just do LVIV live stream, it has a video of the city. It looks like Ukraine, that's for sure. And then Gone Girl, love the people that you are, cherish the people in your life. It can go wrong very fast. I agree with you. King5583, thanks Marf and Dex, love the show. Lisa K23, thank you again. It's me. Hospitals are under CME date. Oh, Lisa, so you are a nurse or you work in the hospital. Okay. So I still think that there should be some sort of legal recourse. Very surprised. And then Open the Door says Charity 1956. Jesus is knocking, no fear. Again, yeah, I think nobody should be afraid of anything. We should be kept up on this, and we should know exactly what is happening. Don't be surprised if your power goes out. That's my saying. Bobby D, Hopkinson, Vault 11, Kishara, Charity, and of course, Skyhouse. Thank you so much. Cyber 54, everybody else that is popping into D Live, thank you guys. Again, it's you got the whole crew over there. Thank you, everybody, the D-Love crew. All right, and then Dex. Russia doubles down on claims a U.S. submarine was in its waters despite denial.
Yeah, so I guess we're denying it, but they've come out and said that they found one of our subs and they chased it out with one of their ships.
So, I mean, that would make sense. Just a couple weeks ago, we popped up all over the world. Now we're apparently encroaching up on them. One thing I think of is what I said prior, like, what if we're actually planning an attack on them? What if this was completely a role reversal and they actually had information that we were going to take over Russia for whatever reason? Maybe Russia doesn't want to go with the N, W, or the O. Maybe China doesn't either. Maybe they're planning on trying to take out both. I doubt the whole China thing because I think China is set up to be... It almost seems like China and Russia are set up to take over number one spot. If they can replace whoever is in number one spot, as far as they can just basically control this whole country that was number one for so long, Rome falls down, right? Dex?
Yeah, and Adam, just want to add, for those of you that are following, if you don't know where this happened, it's called the Kuril Islands, and that is over near Japan. And we've covered the Kuril Islands, I believe, in a story where there's conflict between Japan and maybe China, I believe, over who, or Russia, one of the two, over who controls those islands, and they say they're theirs. But that's where this happened. So this is not in the Ukraine theater, so to speak, or the European theater, so to speak. This is happening on the other side. And by the way, we've talked a lot about all the deployments that have gone on over there and all the activity that's gone on over there. Know that we're in this lull with the idea that something could happen with Taiwan, the lull being the Chinese New Year, which will finish up in 2 more days, and or the Olympics, which will finish up in about 6 to 7 more days, I believe. And we know that we pretty much know no action or activity will happen during that time period with China, but we'll see what happens after.
And it ends up that we talked about this probably a month and a half ago before anybody was really talking about this, but we talked about the actual weather in Ukraine and how it would matter. It says, is in Russia's Ukraine plans, how much does the mud matter? The Russian expression, tanks don't fear mud, is common enough that it's been the title of a short-lived Russian television series and can be found stenciled on car windows. I assume they mean if you have a dirty car, people write it on their windows, right? It says, and it's yet another reason why any Russian decision to invade Ukraine is likely to depend on very little upon fears that a spring thaw will hinder tanks from crossing boggy ground. Russia's military has, in addition to tanks and other armored vehicles that are well equipped for mud, a range of fighter jets and missiles that are hallmarks of any modern military. U.S. Pres JB has said that Russia is essentially in position for an invasion of Ukraine, assuming that the ground is frozen above Kiev, the Ukrainian capital that is only 75 kilometers or 47 miles from the border of Belarus, a key Russian ally. It's not the first time an American official has invoked Russia's need for frozen ground to stage an invasion. But analysts say trying to figure out how Russia could invade, say, any assault would start with air and missile strikes, likely targeting Ukrainian military sites. It says, quote, if Russian President Vladimir agrees to an invasion, then it won't be tanks or ships in the vanguard, but rather aircraft and missile forces. The first targets for them will be air defense systems and the missile defense force. Command posts, critical infrastructure, after which the advantage of Russian forces in the air and the upper hand on land and sea are guaranteed. So just want to point out, so the U.S. has been practicing landing jets and cargo jets on highways. Well, why would you do that? Well, you would do that because your airfields and everything else are knocked out. It's the first step of an invasion, right? So I just want to put it out there that it seems like the Congress and what is happening with the U.S. were low-key actually preparing for a future invasion. Whether this be now or in 50 years from now, it seems like because of technology has come where it has come in the last 50 years and where planes and how far they can go and everything else, we are no longer a safe haven here in the U.S. And I've even shown you actual experts saying this, that now we are reachable. We're not untouchable because of our geography or anything like that anymore. But the first thing, it says the first targets for them will be air defense systems. Now, remember, we just said that they just got these surface-to-air missile system from Lithuania as part of many that they just got shipped. So those would be the first targets, right? It says, and the Missile Defense Force. Command post, critical infrastructure, so bases, anything else as far as part of their entire thing here, and of course, from which the advantage of Russian forces in the air and upper hand on land and sea are guaranteed. So the many things that they're doing, it says the only deterrent is the West's position and the readiness of millions of Ukrainians to fight to the end. So they're saying right here that the only deterrent is basically us and NATO and everybody else saying if we're going to step in. So if we went hardcore and just said we're going to wipe you off the face of the planet, which I bet our last president probably wouldn't even gotten to there, and whether you like him or hate him, I bet they would have been buddies, going golfing, doing their Illuminati lunches or whatever they did. Again, they probably would have worked out a deal where they both make money or something. He would have been the art of the deal and whatever. For some reason, I don't think that we would have been in the same place, because it seems like a lot of this is somehow planned. Maybe he was part of it. Maybe the last president was part of it, set it up like a birdie. Just, I don't know. What I do know is this is lined up so something can get done. There are big moves. This is the biggest move I've seen in my life. In fact, the last 3 years have been the biggest moves I have ever seen. I bet Dex could say the same. I bet any of you could say the same as well. The last 3 years, they have moved more money and they have moved more things than we've ever seen in history. We could probably technically say that too. Dex, what do you think?
Yeah, probably for the time measured by time, yes. I mean, I think what we spent in the ME was just an outlandish amount of money. Yeah, I totally agree. For this short amount of time, everything that's rolling out and what's happening, this is pretty significant. And the fact that it is less of the setup for proxies, which we've spent a lot of years dealing with, and more a potential setup for a head-to-head conflict with a major, nuclear power. So that's what's more concerning. Sure, what we did in the S country over oil pipelines in the ME was a proxy with Russia, right? And every now and then we might touch a little of each other, but it really wasn't the same thing as what we're dealing with today. And this can move to a whole new level very quickly, in the blink of an eye.
Very, very well can. Terry T, I want to thank you. By the way, over the last month here, Terry T, thank you for your support over on PayPal. Krista R, Faley M, Donna F, Diane M, thank you so much. Chris G, Ashley T, Kimberly S, Heidi J, Davis D, and Lori S. Thank you guys. VB Lisa, sure appreciate all the good info you guys provide. God bless you, Dex, and your families. And then thank you so much for all the time you take to give people the news. That's not fear-mongering. I love how there's no drama or bashing. I always look to your videos to see what's going on in the world, so thank you. I'm also praying for healing. Diane says, I saw another creator talking badly about you. And I know you know who they are, and you have never said a bad word back. That is why I watch your show now and not theirs. I appreciate that. I really do. And again, that's the thing. Like, as far as I just ran into this the other day too. It's like, if somebody has it out for you, they're going to have it out for you. And as far as like that goes, it's like it's one of our actual rules. We do not talk badly about other creators, even if they're talking smack about us. And I'm glad you guys know that. Like, seriously, it doesn't matter. As far as like, people can call me whatever names they want. I did respond to somebody just yesterday, I think, and it was like somebody said the number one thing that all truthers get accused of one, being a shill, or two, being a government this or a government that. First of all, the one thing I would appreciate if I was a government agent is health insurance, because I have to go to the ER for almost everything and basically screwed, like I said, health insurance would probably save my life right now. But another thing is, like, I think that's part of the op. And I think that people are playing a part of the actual op and they don't even know it. So if somebody is talking badly about somebody else, they're trying to keep you away from the information. Think about how much information we share of yours. Like, we share thousands of people's information out through our website. Our website is this huge database of just everything, from the truckers, from this, from that. There's nothing we won't touch on our website. And again, on the show, we have to keep running and we have to keep growing, right? But again, we are sharing so much information. And if that other person is trying to keep you away from another person, that's a bad thing. And if you're trying to keep somebody away from that, somebody says, you're taking people's information. First of all, from High Impact Flicks to Jacob, Israel, to whatever, an email list is the least you have to worry about. The CIA has your cell phone camera on right now, and they're watching you. I don't think we're going to hurt you through your email list. And this is somebody who's commenting on YouTube who had to give more information than what we take to sign up for YouTube. And that's Google. So if you think that, it's like some of the stuff doesn't make sense. But again, the one thing that I think, though, is like, this is separating us. Nobody will collab with each other. Truthers won't collab. Everybody calls everybody a shill, and it destroys everything. It destroys any chance of us actually looking at who is above us. Think about that. When you go in and you say, oh, you're this or you're that, without proof, you are actually turning other people away. And that person who told you that stuff, one, I would look at like, hey, maybe did they get less views? Are they, second place in some way? Are they feeling down about themselves? Whatever it may be. Because I've noticed, one, jealousy, and Global Witness or any YouTuber can see the jealousy, just general dislike, hate. These all play a part into it. But second, there is some real ops. Like, they want to make sure that we do not gather. So much so to what I said earlier, big Fox News and all these news, they're copying what you see on independent alternative news. Why? Because you are all coming here instead of there. And I'm not saying specifically me, but you're going to the me's, the High Impacts, the BP Earthwatches. You're going to us instead of mainstream. And yes, we may take mainstream, but we're talking about it with an open mind instead of just taking the narrative as it is. If you just read that mainstream, then you are going to 100% take that as a fact, or it's going to be in the back of your head. Unless somebody is saying it out loud and then saying, hey, it might not be that way. So I appreciate everybody that understands us, and I appreciate everybody that's going out and sharing us like wild, because we are not shared. We do not trend, even though our views go way higher than some of the videos that are trending. You'll see a video with 100,000 views that's number 10 on trending in our category, and it's 5 days old. We had that in 2 days, and we didn't hit trending once. Think about that kind of stuff. And then think about if the person saying it is talking badly about other people every day, and it's a pattern, they're turning you away from a new person every day. That's not a good thing. Meanwhile, I have pushed up creators that have thrown me under the bus. I've pushed up strangers and strangers with YouTube channels, thrown them 1,000 subscribers for only 3 weeks later for them to get jealous they're not getting the same views they got the first night. They then talk trash about us and then throw us under the bus and say these things. And did I stop? No. We continue to do love mobs, even though we don't do it as much because the bad ones ruin it. So just keep that in mind. And then not with just this, with everything. Any channel you go to, you're going to see this. And then you won't see these big panels like what Global Witness had because people won't work with other people. Oh, you're with that guy's a shill. He does this, he does that. I've heard. So if you guys knew the behind the scenes of the truther community, you would just be blown away. Everybody hates everybody. I've never experienced this in my life. I never hate somebody unless they did something to me. Don't understand it. So try to spread the love outside of my chat. Try to go to other channels, and when they're talking about other channels, just any channel, say, hey, why don't we keep it positive? Why don't we push people up? That's why you see me working with the creators that only push people up instead of pushing people down. It's a very important part, so I'm sorry if that went off on a rant, but it is important because there's a lot of new people here, and I want you to make sure you know my values and my morals, because if you don't like it, you have to find me to come watch my show. It's literally, you have to go out of your way to watch me. You don't have to. I'd rather have 10 loyal, positive people in my chat than 5,000 people if they're not loyal and if they're just total jerks. And then I'm going to leave you guys to this. It does say fears, torture, dungeons could follow Putin invasion led by the maniac. This is op-ed. Fears have spiked that Putin's potential invasion of Ukraine could be followed by an influx of horrific torture dungeons. Concerns have been raised that troops could enforce a barbaric Russian regime if tanks roll over the border in a bid to keep defiant locals in line. It says civil rights groups claim thousands are currently being held captive by the backed rebels and the mercenaries that fight alongside them. They are said to be holed up in the hellish chambers run by the Russian president's thugs. This is, of course, an accusation, right? Former nuclear bunkers in eastern Ukraine have allegedly been repurposed as Putin's very own prisons. That would be hard to escape, right? They are reportedly headed by Kremlin-backed Ukrainian separatist forces in the disputed region of Donbass. And as tensions reach fever pitch between the two countries, it is feared that thousands of resistant Ukrainians could be banged up in the hellholes. I don't know if any of this is true, Dex. I mean, do you, again, I'm sure that almost all of these countries have something.
Yeah, this is, this kind of information has been going back and forth from both sides. In other words, if you go to the Russian papers and some of the things they're saying, they're making allegations just like this on the other side, saying there's going to be these types of camps, or there are these types of camps, and we've got to, we got to go in there before all this bad stuff from NATO and everyone else happens, right? So yeah, it's really interesting, and it definitely gives you a point of view of some of the propaganda, if you want to call it, that's being published out on both sides.
And part of this is coming out of an actual UN report. So it's like, you never know what is there and what is not. But again, we have Guantanamo, right? We have places like that. We had things like this. I'm sure we have things that are way worse than what's public. So almost every big major power probably has hellish things. I mean, think about the movies, the science fiction movies that, if you discover an alien, or just like Don't Look Up, like where they put a thing over your head and take you away, that can happen in almost every major country. They can just take you if they want. So that's what's so funny. It's not funny, but what is funny is how they portray different countries of being this way or that way. It's all hypocritical because every country's this way and that way, especially during war. Really horrible things happen if this goes down. I sure hope it doesn't. Last reminder, make sure to go over to marfooglenews.com/prep if you want long-term storage, stored food. Again, this is the best place to go. In my opinion, again, I ate 7-year-old food, and I actually thought it was delicious. I did not have a second serving of it because I didn't have one, but I would have eaten it. Again, this is from My Patriot Supply. You can get bucket solutions, or you can get MREs. You can get water filtration systems. In fact, the Alexa Pure, again, great system, a fraction of the cost of the Berkey. Make sure to go over there and check it out, marfooglenews.com/prep. You can even get iodine over there, iodine pills for the event of a nuclear exchange. You can get a ton of stuff over there. So go to marfooglenews.com/prep. Right now, they still have the discount of $50 off per month food of pre-stored food, long-term food. And they also have kept the $150 off on a 3-month supply. The one thing that they have not done is raise their prices over the last 2 years. Almost all of the other companies have, the smaller ones especially. A lot of the smaller companies don't have a great choice of anything because they're out of almost everything right now. It is record-breaking numbers of people buying and stocking up food right now, so it's hard to get. It's going up in value. People feel like this is an investment now. It is a good investment for you personally, but again, people are actually getting it and then selling it later down the road. I would recommend keeping it. But again, the one thing that goes away is the discounts. So they did go away for a while. They are back. I would highly suggest getting it while they're back. And I guarantee they can't keep the prices the same forever, at least on the same amounts. So again, marfooglenews.com/prep. That helps us out. It gives us a small commission, and then it also helps you out with a discount. And then, let's see here. And then Dex, do you want to go over some of the crazy stuff here?
Absolutely. And Adam, if you can refresh the page, I've added a couple of things to it. I want to talk about a couple of them that are on there. But if you head over to marfooglenews.com and you click on the thumbnail for the show, or on YouTube, you open the description and click on show notes, the first link, it'll take you right here to this webpage where we just had all of the articles that we went over, as well as this section called web only content. So when you scroll down to that yellow section, that yellow bar says web only content, that's everything that's too hot for TV, too far to one side, too political, too et cetera, things we just can't cover in the show. A couple things going on there. Find out what's happening with a former executive at Levi's. Other things going on. Someone who is a candidate was had an attempt against them. You can learn more about that. Other things going on with some of the subjects we tried to talk about earlier with Durham and how that may be playing out. A lot more details will be down here. There's a couple of facts, though, that I want to qualify facts. They're tweets, so I don't know. I don't have the background on who these people are, but there's this one chart that shows Russia versus Ukraine and the number of personnel and tanks and Navy size and artillery and aircraft. I thought that was rather fascinating. And then there's another chart that shows donations by nationality to a certain organization. And I thought it was interesting that the Ukraine was the number one if you look at who donated to that organization. So if you want to learn more about all of this and everything else that we've put together, curated, and found, it is on marfooglenews.com. Click on the thumbnail for the show, scroll down to web only content, or open that description on YouTube and click on show notes.
Again, Ukraine at 10+ million contributions by individuals of more than 50,000 to this foundation. I'll just zoom in real quick so you can make sure you can see that. Well, to that foundation, right? Kind of, as the kids would say, suspect.
And Adam, real quick, we are also, or I also following, I don't call it breaking news, rumored news, that there potentially is some activity that has happened in the Ukraine. It's being started to come up on Twitter. It's started to come up on 4chan and other places. I don't trust it yet, so I'm telling you guys that I don't trust it because it's not confirmed. But we're gonna continue to monitor that, and if you want to monitor it, you can certainly go Go to Twitter and search for, explosion Ukraine, and you'll probably start to see, and if it is true, you'll probably start to see a lot more.
So if it does end up popping off tonight, we will be back. I am sure it doesn't matter where we are. This is a good reason to subscribe and turn the notifications bell to all. Recently, over the last week, YouTube told us in our studio that we would be seeing a reduced amount of subscribers, that they're cleaning it out. They say they do this every year because they're making sure it's fair. Like if somebody hasn't watched me in a year, they take it off. They do that for advertising reasons, to make it so it's like, so the people, for the companies they're selling that ad time to, they want to make sure that these are, real people watching, so they clean them out. What bothers me, though, is people that say they watch every night get unsubbed all the time. So I don't know how they do that system. Make sure you are subscribed. A lot of people just type it in and look me up every time. Make sure you're subscribed, and that will show up in your home feed. Big thank you to Gone Girl 777, top supporter over on DLive. Thank you, everybody, for supporting over there. Again, the top three Gone Girl. Thank you to Gone Girl T-Man Red Pill and Lisa K23. Thank you, everybody. And then over on YouTube, thank you to Global Witness. Huge thank you to Chanel Belifuqua. Thank you. Again, I appreciate you. SP, thank you. Iris Lilyhammer, 6 times 6 times 6 equals 216. 216. Saying 666 basically equals 216, February 16th. Very interesting there. Numbers possibly come into that, huh? Chicano's Ray's grandson, thank you for your support. Daniel Claymon, Iris Lilyhammer, again, thank you and bless you. Thank you for supporting us. Sally McCarty, Stephen McMahon, it takes the Clark Kent of the English world. Canada flipped the kryptonite bird to the tyrant. Absolutely. Survival Living, Zach Van, Chanel Bivlovqua, again, thank you. Everybody, love you guys. It is now time for the shoutro. If the show ends again on DLive, it won't. So you can either hop over to DLive or subscribe to our third channel, Marfoogle Jams. It's where I say, the shoutro is where I say thank you to the people that are here. I make silly music out of people's names to say thank you. That's really what it was. And again, to avoid copyright. So tonight's song is called Never Back Down. Have a good night. Be safe. Be prepared. It's time for the shoutro. Truckers in the background, never gonna back down. Truckers in the background, never gonna back down. Truckers in the background, truckers in the background. Truckers in the background, never gonna back down.
I got the wages.
Truckers in the background, never gonna back down. Truckers in the background, never gonna just like a suspect. Going down now. Can you check? It's up my world and I bring it on down. No vision run, telegram, page or beat them that. A hardy snake or seen it gonna be some man. I'm out to bring it back around and everybody now. Sky house, sea hall, neon, Nevo. I knew everybody getting on the people. On the people. Walking on the street and I seeing all my people. Walking down the street and seeing all my people. Standing up against all what is evil. Rockers in the background, never gonna back down. Truckers in the background, never gonna back down. Truckers in the background, never gonna back down. Should never be ever equal. Should never ever all ever equal. Should never. Truckers in the background, never gonna back down. Truckers in the background, never gonna back down. Truckers in the background, never gonna back down. Terror on the Riseland with the Mark Seaside in Port Knock with the Matt Shirley with the Bonnie Mullen, everybody controlling. No off the cuff news, no off the cuff who. Hard slapping on the hard with the Mrs. Capacha. I Mr. on the beaker on the Mr. on the plow with the survival living, and you gotta go check out Kathleen B. missing the height on y'all. Oh no, maybe it's a Mr. or y'all. Saw Red Ball with the Mr. on your all. I saw it now back with the Polity Carter. Oh no, maybe just to try a harder. Me speaking 75 and I hide it 12. Go down everybody when they wanna go to hell. Oh, maybe the torture is hell and the dungeons of the toy and the Russian sweat. Lord Andrew and the dragon on the slayer. Bring it right down and I see you on a later. I look that 10x I missed or two. Bones gotta go check them out too. I just wanna fly down to the river. Mr. Dia. Got the pair of rice limbo on the kind of ice hit. What now? Van Heisen, oh, Susan, down on you. Susan, down on you. Susan, on you. Da 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 da. Susan, on you. Do what you do. Susan, on you. Do what you do. Truckers in the background, never gonna back.